Having a workshop of almost any size means having lots of little important bits and bobs.
From unique router bits, hooks, jigs, bolts, knobs,
to that extra set of porcelain drawer pulls
that goes to that antique vanity your grandmother gave you 30 years ago and you know you'll never be able to replace because they're stained with a dye derived from an extinct beetle, and you know you're going to need it someday because every time your nephew comes, he swings the door to the bathroom open too fast, and you told your wife to move the vanity, but she said that would throw off the feng shui of the room, but he's getting stronger every year, and someday he's going to chip the drawer pulls and you can't replace them, and your grandmother is going to put a curse on you from her grave. So, can't lose those drawer pulls.
And lots of other stuff too.
And when you need stuff fast.
But what we all need is more shop space.
We're going to show you our entirely unique solution that absolutely no one else ever thought of before.
And we're going to do it for as cheaply as possible.
Next on Now We Build.
I want to start off with our finished bins first to give you an idea of what we were thinking. We went with two different designs, one using Harbor Freight's cheap part cases,
and one using Harbor Freight's bigger, less cheap cases.
We chose these parts cases from Harbor Freight because they're cheap. They typically retail for about $10, but they do go on sale from time to time for as little as $6. So if you're planning on doing this project, keep your eyes peeled for a deal and hurry up. They do go fast.
They're a good size for storing small items, and they also come in a larger size, which usually retails for about $12. The beauty of this system is that unlike drawers or open-top bins, you can pull these out and take them with you, throw them in your truck, take them to a job site, and when you lose it at said job site, it's only $10 to replace, plus whatever was in there. The tiny little bins can be reconfigured from case to case, so you can customize them, move stuff around without dumping it out, and ultimately label each case so you can find what you're looking for at a glance.
I like these little bins because they don't break or fall out like other cases with those divider thingies, but if those size bins don't work for you, you can always take some out, which leaves a negative space in the box. Or you can get real fancy and use packing foam from something you got in the mail to make a tool holder like we did with this zip tie gun.
Look at that. It's even got space for all the zip ties.
I can't tell you how convenient it's been on projects to go, oh, we need zip ties. Go grab the zip tie case. And we literally know exactly where it is. It's labeled and has everything we need.
You could opt for different cases, but this price point is pretty hard to beat, even on cheap websites.
These other bins from Harbor Freight were perfect for larger tools, heavier nuts and bolts, and are large enough to be toolboxes for specific tasks. Here's our Romex kit. Obviously, a bit small for an electrician, but perfect for smaller projects like putting in outlets or lights. These bins can stack on top of each other, and Harbor Freight sells a rolling base box. So if you needed to do a big project, you could load up a bunch of these boxes and roll it out.
However, when they're all stacked together, you'd have to remove the ones on top to get to the ones below, which is annoying. So we thought, let's make these so you could pull out any of them at any time, and if we end up not needing them that much, then we could roll them onto the elevator and send them up to our storage attic. Yes, that is an elevator, and yes, you can see the video of how we made it.
In our shop, we wanted something that could do double duty as both a parts bin case holder and a worktop. We took some measurements of our tool chests and found that 37 inches would be great overall for our height. The width of our small boxes is 18 inches wide. The width of our large boxes is 22 3/16 inches wide. The depth of our small boxes is 14 inches, and the depth of our large boxes is 16 1/4 inches. Now we made our runners 1 inch high by 1/4 inch wide out of poplar, and our runner spacing on the small boxes is 2.5 inches from top to top, and the runner spacing on our large boxes is 5 1/4 inches top to top.
But as you can see, these cabinets are not all that wide, so we wanted a tabletop, which we got at Home Depot.
Yeah, we got a long piece and a short piece of butcher block, and unfortunately we found out that one of the pieces we got was a veneered particle board, but well, we'll get into that in a future episode, because in that future episode we're going to show you how we made these magically stick to the top of our rolling storage bins. You're not going to want to miss that, so please take a second, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it.
Which reminds me, we wanted these to roll, which means that we needed wheels. We ended up going with casters from, you guessed it, Harbor Freight.
You can find a link to those down below. We took the height of the caster that we wanted, and of course you can choose any casters that you want for your shop, but we measured those and the thickness of our tabletop, and we subtracted it from our 37-inch height so we could figure out how tall the actual cabinets would be.
Then we measured the size of our bins and estimated the overall layout. This is where things get tricky. If you make the cabinet too wide or too deep, You're wasting shop space. But if you make them too tight, you're going to need to either start again or break out the router.
Measure twice. You know what? Measure a lot. And if you can, only cut one cabinet at a time. That way, if you screw up, you're only screwing up the one cabinet.
And hey, don't just copy our design. Make these cabinets however you want. Maybe you want a floor-to-ceiling design or a bucket cube. Whatever you go for, let us know how it turns out in the comments. But beware, a cabinet like this without a front is going to want to bow outward, meaning that bins sitting in the middle may fall out, especially as the height and weight increases. I think we flew a little too close to the sun with our design. Our more looser cabinet can bow depending on how it's loaded.
A shelf halfway up can help with the bowing, but keep in mind that then you're spending more money on plywood and it takes up more space.
But stop daydreaming about your cabinet. Let us show you how we made ours. So after taking careful measurements, it was time to get building. We headed to Home Depot to get our high quality plywood.
Are you joking about the quality of plywood here?
We ripped the plywood on our table saw to the appropriate dimensions, and then we got to work putting our boxes together.
For some of you, this may be as close to cabinetry as you're ever going to want to get because every dimension needs to be as perfect as possible.
After tacking together the cabinets with finish nails, we tested out that our boxes would fit based off our measurements. You may decide to take it back apart to put some of the runners in, but it is helpful to keep this intact while you lay everything out.
Next, it was time to put something in the cabinet to hold up the cases without stacking them on top of one another. We went with runners. Now, you could simply give each case its own shelf. However, again, this would significantly add to the cost and the weight, all while reducing space that could be used for storing your grandmother's drawer pulls.
Again, careful measurements. The cases don't have much of a lip. If you go too wide on the runner, the cases won't fit, and if you go too narrow on the runner, the cases won't have enough purchase and they'll fall off.
Also, you really want to go for a hardwood here. These are acting as runners, so the last thing you want to do is have your cases dig into something soft like fir or pine and make a divot, preventing you from pulling the case smoothly in and out.
We found that a 1/4 inch thick runner worked well for us, and we cut ours out of a poplar board we had lying around. You could go for something harder like oak, but poplar is a good choice for cost.
We decided to put some chamfers on our runners. However, we did make a mistake here. We made the chamfer too deep, so that the cases are very close to falling off. If we ever transport this cabinet upstairs on the elevator, we'll probably need to add a strap to keep everything in place.
Once we had our runners, it was time to lay them out to ensure smooth operation. We left a small space for our cases to be lifted up for when you pull them out or put them in, but we made sure to keep them packed as closely together as possible. If you put one bin at the bottom of the cabinet, you can place spacers made of cut up scraps of wood on top. Then you can place another bin on top of that spacer and slide in another runner. Take that measurement and multiply that out over the height of your cabinet to determine how many bins you can fit. If you have remaining space, that can either be used to increase the spacing of your cases, making it easier for loading and unloading, or you can use that space to add a shelf or a spreader, preventing the cabinet from bowing in the middle. Either way, remember that this is a time-consuming step and that any mismeasurement will lead to problems.
Our runners on the smaller cabinets are 2.5 inches apart, and this allows for the larger bins to fit, although they take up 2 bays with some wasted space. You could always account for this and make a different layout, but we had no idea what we wanted, so we went for maximum flexibility.
Now, to make life easier, we pulled our cabinets apart so we can attach the runners.
That's some real out-of-the-box thinking there.
And the main thing holding these runners on is glue, but we're adding brads pretty much just to hold the runners in place while the glue dries.
Next, it was time to add the casters. We installed these on the corners to help with stability since these cabinets were pretty narrow, and we used this trick to make sure that the screws were lined up with the holes.
Next, we tacked together our larger cabinet and did the same measurements for our cases, except since the big ones were so big, we designed it to have one of them sit on the bottom to be as efficient as possible.
And again, when you're attaching the runners, take your time. It's easy to get confused and mess things up putting things on upside down or backwards. And I think we did that once.
Then you put your cabinet together and get the wheels on it.
And not only did we gain an incredible amount of storage space, we also got some workspace.
And voila, we're done. I can't tell you how insanely densely packed you can get everything.
I had hundreds of dollars worth of hardware, everything from screws, nuts, and bolts, just sitting downstairs in the basement in jars and old coffee cans, rusting, just because we didn't have a way to organize them. But when we were done with the project, it was actually quite fun with our new system to get everything organized and put away in our snazzy new Harbor Freight bins.
And perfect is the enemy of good. You don't have to get to the level that you see at the hardware store where literally everything is labeled. Having a bin of assorted small bolts, and a bin of assorted large bolts, and a bin of assorted small nuts, and assorted large nuts, and assorted large and small washers is way better than having one giant tin full of all of them.
But this could be used for all sorts of things, not just screws and bolts.
And you deserve to have this in your shop. Each cabinet costs well under $80 before adding the cases. And yes, the cases aren't free, but with a discount, you can hopefully get yours for under $100. making each cabinet cost under $200 for the small parts and around $300 for the larger cabinets.
As you'll see in a future video, topping it off with a couple roughly $130 to $200 butcher block tabletops, and yeah, the whole project came to about $1,400.
Now, you could go and spend that kind of money on a nice rolling toolbox like this one. And you probably should first. Tools that you'll use in your shop on a regular basis should probably be in a drawer. Easy to grab at a moment's notice, even with your hands partially full.
But somewhere either in your shop or in your storage space for your shop, I think having one of these is going to change the way you do some projects.
Please promise me you will buy one of these, a label maker. We'll leave the links down below.
You don't have to get the Radio Shack version like we did from the 90s, but I mean, they're like, yeah, they're so much cheaper than they were when you bought that one.
Oh, I know. This is like $140 back in the day. I think you can get them as cheap as like $20 to $40 now. So
I saw one for 15 on Amazon.
I know. Just do it. You'll thank us.
And get a bunch of the, labels, so that way you don't feel like, oh, do I really deserve to have a label? You do. Yes, do it.
Okay, so you talked about this in terms of the cost of the money, but I know there was also time involved, and you might be asking yourself right now at the end of this video, do I deserve this? And I want to tell you, just in the past year since we built this, in the past few months since we built this, I can't tell you, I've lost count of how many times I have gone to get parts for a project we were working on, which meant that if I didn't have it, here's what would have happened.
Well, I guess that's all we can get done for today.
We got to go to the store.
We'll go to the hardware store. We'll have to order it off Amazon.
Even a bolt nowadays costs a few bucks. So even if that's what you're missing, and then what really irks me to no end is if you do go to the hardware store to get that bolt, you already had that bolt. It's just that it was down in your basement somewhere. Now you don't have to waste your time and money buying more stuff that you already have. It pays for itself. I think it paid for itself within like 5 months.
And I know Zach has been a hoarder his whole life, and he's been putting stuff in coffee cans.
I'm not alone.
But yeah, you can go to garage sales and buy the coffee cans for like $1, and in there is like $50 worth of hardware. You can also just accumulate your own garbage.
Actually, the last time we were at the hardware store, I saw they were doing the same thing, selling bags of bolts, and I'm like, for like $2.
Because even the hardware store, even though they can make the money off of it, they don't want to spend the time to resort it. All you have to do, buy that and just kind of sort it among the general. You can get down to the, oh, this is a 3M, 2mm bolt, if that's what you really want to do. But I would just say, get it into small and large. You're gonna thank me, because when you're like, I just need like a big-ish screw, and it needs to be about this big, instead of you having to like take out your tape measure and be like, oh, it's 1 1/4 inches, you can just go find the screw that you need.
And when you put up a TV or you go to IKEA and you come home and there's a few leftover bolts or whatever, what do you do with them?
You're like, oh, I'll put them in my junk drawer. Or at least that's what I do. I'm sure some people are like, I will throw this away. Now you have a place where you can put them all, and you go like, oh, I need a bolt. And it's like, right, when you have a TV mount, half the cost is all the extra bolts that they give you, because they have no idea what needs to fit in the back of your TV.
Exactly.
So take advantage of all those extra bolts, put them somewhere,
use them.
and if you're gonna do projects, you'll probably need them.
But you know what? Let us know if you prefer cans and jars down your basement versus this project. I would love to know if any of you guys built it or thoughts you have to improve it. So let us know in the comments down below. And lastly, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps grow the channel, and it helps us to bring you more incredible content.
Thanks so much for watching on Now We Build.